Hello, you guys. This is My Leak. This is the My Taught You podcast, and I am back with our third installment of our entrepreneur series. And so this is a series for the entrepreneurial, whether you are thriving as an entrepreneur, you are an inspiring entrepreneur, or you are entrepreneurial, meaning you have a passion project inside of your career or even on the outside of your career. This podcast is for you. The title of this podcast is titled Boss Branding. And so I am going to cover a lot today in this podcast. So I want to make sure that you've got your pen, your paper, your My Taught You journal, whatever it is that you need, because we are going to cover a lot of ground, because there is a lot of confusion about branding and marketing, and I'm going to try to share as much as I possibly can with you. This podcast series is brought to you by FreshBooks. I've loved getting the tweets and messages from you guys telling me that you have tried FreshBooks and you are loving it as much as I did. I'm not surprised because FreshBooks makes really, really easy to use cloud accounting software that helps us entrepreneurs deal with all the paperwork that we don't have the time to deal with. So if you're on the move like I am, they have an app. You can literally put together an invoice in 30 seconds or less. If you're like me and you like getting paid, you can have your clients pay online using FreshBooks. And one of my favorite features about FreshBooks is that they can let you know whether or not a client has seen your invoice. And so that kind of gets rid of that uncomfortable moment when you need to follow up because you want to get paid, you want to move on. And you can just say, hey there, I saw you open the invoice last week, so I'm circling back to check in on payment. And so don't ever feel bad about circling back for your money, okay? If you want to check out my free 30-day trial, just go to freshbooks.com/My Taught You, and there's a section that says, how did you hear about us? Just let them know My Taught You. And then just let me know what you think about it, because it was a really useful tool when I was first starting out. So without further ado, we are going to get into this boss branding podcast. I'm podcasting from Memphis today, and it's just such a good thing that I have this microphone, because no sooner than I finished my notes and got ready to do this podcast, they started having like band practice outside. So shout out to the microphone for keeping the noise out. So get your pen and paper ready. I am going to be speaking tonight in Memphis, but before I even chitty chat tonight, I want to talk with you. So by definition, branding is the marketing practice of creating a name, symbol, or design that identifies and differentiates a product from other products. So that is what the brand is. I think over time, branding has gotten confused with marketing. Excuse me. Branding is not marketing. Marketing is when you are pushing. So marketing is when you are pushing things onto people, and branding is how you pull them in, right? So your brand is your promise to your customer or your client. Your brand tells them what they can expect from your products or your services, and what your brand should be doing is separating you from any of your competitors. So marketing sort of activates people to buy, but branding is what we do to create loyal customers, advocates, and evangelists out of the people who are actually buying. So marketing is only going to activate them, but our brand is going to make them loyal, going to make them advocate for us, and even make them evangelists. So I think the first and easiest thing for us to discuss when it comes to branding is the logo. I think a lot of people, that is the first place that they go, usually the name, and once you get the name, you go for the logo. Everyone needs a logo. This is just a part of the branding that you can't skip. But I want you to think before you get into your logo, or maybe you're going to redo your logo. It's a function of your brand. It is not and should not be the actual brand. So before you get with a graphic designer, I want you to do some homework. I want you to create a mood board to give them some direction. I want you to put any and everything that you can possibly think of on this board. And I have mentioned this in prior podcasts. So sometimes I will give myself a mood board, even if I'm creating a new project. So before I did Curlbox, I worked with tons of other brands and helped them either revamp themselves or even just jump out the box. And I would always put together sort of like 6 to 9 photos before I would submit them to the graphic artist of what I wanted the logo, the kind of emotion I hoped that it evoked. Something else that people probably don't think about when they are getting their logo done is something called the color emotion guide. So there is a color emotion guide that lots of brands have used in the past that help sort of influence the customer. So yellow is optimism, clarity, warmth. So those are brands like UPS, Best Buy, Hertz, McDonald's. Friendly is orange, cheerful, confidence. You've got Nickelodeon, Fanta Soda, Hooters, that sorts of deal. Payless, Firefox. Red is excitement and bold. You've got Coca-Cola, Nintendo, Kellogg's, Kmart, Target, Avis, lots of things. You'll notice there are a lot of brands that use red. Purple is creative, wise. You've got Yahoo. You've got T-Mobile. You've got Barbie in there, Taco Bell. Blue is going to create trust and strength. And so when I organized my apps on my phone by color, and I noticed that most apps are blue. Most of the apps that I use are blue. And so for those, you've got Twitter, American Express, Hewlett Packard, Oral-B, Vimeo, those sorts of deals. Green is peaceful. So you think about BP, Tropicana, things like that. And then like a black, white, or gray is like balance and calm. And you've got, New York Times, Apple, Nike, Puma, so on. So that is like a quick rundown of that guide. So before I got started with Curlbox, I knew I am obsessed with pink, but pink represents romance and femininity. And so I was creating a product for women. And so I felt very comfortable and confident using pink, the pink being feminine. And then when I created it, I knew that I wanted it to feel like a gift. So I wanted to create that romance. For anyone who has ever gotten Curlbox, you know that it always comes with pink tissue paper, and that is just the romance that I want to create in a product that I believe has a lot of value. To get a gift for $20 a month, it's $20 plus the $5 shipping. That was my goal. And pink is used to market products to women and young girls. So that's just something that is not news. That is just what happens. And then black. I knew that I wanted that pink to pop on a powerful background because yes, pink is feminine, but what about the strong woman? And that is the woman that I was seeking out. I made something for African-American women. I believe African-American woman is a strong woman, powerful and sleek. So black is a color that says power, it's sleek, and it's also used to market luxury products. So I wanted something that was affordable, that felt luxurious, and that's why I decided to go with those colors. And so I hope that sort of explaining the color emotion chart and how those things work. I know purple may be your favorite color, but what does purple mean? Purple is used to soothe and calm, often seen in beauty or anti-aging products. So you may need to do some research on the colors that you're using. And then also like the font style and size, what you want it to look like and what that means. Another thing you want to think about is your tagline. And that was one of the hardest things for me to come up with. And that's why I got into a small legal issue with someone who basically ripped off every single thing I had done from top to bottom. And I really got so upset that I was less upset about some of the other stuff, but I was mostly upset that they basically stole the tagline that it took me like a whole week to come up with. And my tagline is affordable, exclusive. Oh my God, did I forget? exclusive, affordable, effortless. And so I took some time to think about, what I do. So you come up with your name, you come up with, your logo, and then you need a tagline. And I used to think like, no, I don't. And the person that I was working with, the business advisor that I was working with, was like, I'm not letting you go to the next step without a tagline, because you need to be able to quickly explain what it is that you do. And it's like, you need to be able to have a line that is memorable, meaningful, and a concise statement that describes your brand. And so I was like, what I do is effortless because it is delivered to your front door. It is affordable because every box has a product value at or above what you pay for it. And it's like, not even mention shipping. I don't know if you guys know anything about shipping, but shipping gets pricey. And I wanted something that was exclusive. So if you go to our site, you can't become a member except for one day a month. And so those are the three things that I felt like made my company what it was. And so what's your tagline if you don't have one? And maybe you make that your homework for the week. There are a lot of people who are thriving without the tagline, but I think that when you come up with the tagline, it keeps you it's like your North Star. It keeps you intact, because what's going to happen is you're going to be approached by different people as you start popping. People are going to be like, oh, you should be doing this. You should be doing that. Like, have you ever thought about doing these? I mean, I can't even tell you the amount of times people come to me and are like, why don't you do this? And why don't you do that? And I'm just like, because I do exclusive, I do affordable, and I do effortless, and that is what I stick to. So, you want to make sure that you have your tagline. Next thing you want to think about is your tone or your voice. What is your communication style through all of your channels going to be? Are you going to be very direct and sort of to the point, clinical? If you have products that are, maybe vitamins or something medical, are you going to be clinical? Or are you going to be funny? What is it? Tease in the Trap. I really love that brand because I like how funny the communication is across the board. So, Tease in the Trap, I know there's a young woman who makes those, and she sent me a mug and some teas. They're dope. I love it. But I have seen her Facebook ads, and the Facebook ads are funny. Like, everything is funny. Are you going to be, hey girl, hey? Like, are you going to be very familiar, and be comfortable being hey girl, hey across the board at all times? When I first started, I used words like poppin' and stuff like that. So in our communication, you'll see that because we want to be sort of relatable. Are you natural? What matters to you? And I always just recommend using the voice that you're most comfortable using, because can't you always tell when somebody's out of their comfort zone or a brand is trying too hard? Like, how many times have you seen on Twitter somebody trying way too hard and you really just want to be like, girl, that's not it. So I want you to think about your tone and your voice. And these are all the keys that are going to help you create a boss brand, like a very, very strong brand. Next thing that you want to do that I would guess that a lot of people probably haven't done this, is what are your brand standards? So what is the sort of like lookbook? How should everything look at all times? So in my office, there is a sheet that has our exact Pantone colors. So if we're ever working with someone, how do you want the logo used? What size should it be used? What are your exact Pantone colors? In formal communication, what should be lowercase? What should be uppercase? What would a new employee or a complete stranger need to know to keep the look of your brand consistent through all communication? You need that. So go ahead and create a sheet of brand standards. And what that's going to do is help you become clearer, and more consistent in what you're doing, because you'll notice that you've got one thing happening over here, you've got something else happening over there. And I've even had to work to clean that up in my office too, because it's like there's one person has this style, another person has that style. And it's like, okay, guys, let's bring it all in and let's create some brand standards. But now that I have kind of gotten out of I feel like the really sort of simple nuts and bolts, because that part is a no-brainer. this is the true essence of branding, is how does it make me feel? You know, does this brand satisfy an emotional need, you know, wanting to feel healthy or successful? Or does it offer access to self-identity? I am an athlete. I am a makeup artist. I am a diva. I am this. So your brand should satisfy an emotional need that someone has, and that's what you have to think about, the emotional aspect. So remember, I told you that marketing pushes things on people, branding pulls people in. This is how you're going to comfortably and confidently pull people in. So you are not selling products, you are selling emotions. You know, seeking emotional connections takes you from differentiating your offering to profiting from long-term relationships to successfully extending into new categories. So long-term relationships, I'm going to read that again. So seeking emotional connections takes you from differentiating your offering to profiting from long-term relationships to successfully extending into new categories and ultimately to creating new businesses. That's why great brands avoid selling products. And I am going to share a book that I have read that I absolutely love, that I got that quote from about emotional connections on my book share. So if you go to my website, mytaught.com, check the book tab, and I'm going to pop that up there so you can see it. And it's called What Great Brands Do. And it talks about selling emotions. And so they in the book, they talk about Nike and how we're not buying shoes with Nike, we're buying a dream, you know, and that is what people, you know, you want people to sort of buy into. There are so many people who do it so well. Oprah Winfrey, you know, Oprah is a person, but we are buying into the hope that she gives us and what she makes us feel. That's boss branding. Like even Beyonce, like that black with the pink logo, and then how she consistently brings us in emotionally. Yes, she is talented. There are tons of talented people who can sing and dance, right? But it's the emotional connection, and that is why we are into her. And so when people love your brand and they love what you do, and there is an emotional connection there, they become your evangelist. And so a lot of times people will say, you know, what's your advertising budget? Do you advertise? And it's like, we don't have to, because we have wonderful people that sing our praises, who believe in us. And so we survey our customers and we just ask them sort of, we ask them, how do you tell other people about us? And it's always word of mouth, you know, word of mouth. You will have people singing your praises. And also, when your customers are emotionally connected, they will be motivated to protect your brand as they are themselves. Have you ever noticed when people have like Instagram trolls, and you know, before the actual person or brand can respond, the army or the beehive has already jumped on them? It's like, that is the emotional connection. Beyonce as an artist is selling emotions. Proud brand users will want the brands displayed on their countertops. So if you've got sleek design, strong emotion, people will want other people to know that they are using this, they are doing this, they've got your bag. Mia Ray has her Glamaholic bags. There are so many people who are doing such amazing things, and people are purchasing these items, the teas in the trap that I mentioned, because they like being a part of it. The same goes for, I believe, products. You know, Carol's daughter, Lisa Price, the emotions that Lisa has made us feel, Shea Moisture, the community. Yes, it is. They have great products, but it's the brand that pulls us in. They'll market their new collections and they'll market these new items to us, but they've already got us, you know, they already got us because they've given us things beyond the product, right? They've given us more than just a shampoo or more than just a t-shirt. And so I read that Pampers was one of the first brands to give useful advice and medical advice to mothers, medical info to mothers. So what additional information, are you giving for free? And so for those of you who follow Gary Vee, he always says you've got to punch, and then uppercut or jab or something like that. And I know some serious Gary Vee followers will get me on this, but the idea is you have to constantly be giving so that when you start selling, it feels seamless and flawless. Like, oh, okay, not a big deal. Sometimes you don't hear anything from anybody for I don't know how long, and then all of a sudden you get an email being like, buy my stuff. And you're like, girl, who are you? Where have you been? What are you doing? And so we just had our retreat last month, and we have twice a year take the Curlbox team out for a retreat, and then we invite one person every retreat who works with us but isn't like a full-on team member to observe, to give us critique and all of that. And one of the things that our guest said is like, Miley, you just share so much free info, like don't you feel like you should be charging for that? And I'm just like, well, I would be sharing this stuff anyway. I really enjoy sharing. But then, if ever I have something or I come out with something or I sell something, people support me. And I think that people support me because I've recorded over 90 something podcasts, for nothing. But I don't, it's like, I feel like people support me in my endeavors. People support me by telling other people about me. People support me by, just because you're not clicking out, of my store doesn't mean that you aren't doing anything or that people aren't doing anything. It's just like the minute that you tell someone else who tells someone else who tells someone else, at some point a transaction will be made. So then I started to think about what makes your brand tick. Like, what is your thing? And I mentioned Oprah before because they say that great brands ignore trends. And I know a lot of you probably may have your eyebrow tilted up like, what? It's all about trends. It's all about, I see so many people doing what everyone else is doing. But there's a story about Oprah Winfrey and why her brand is so distinctive. And her brand is distinctive because it came down to what she chose not to do. One thing she did was that she didn't wait until she got whacked to leave. She took herself off the air while she was still successful. She could have waited until she burned out, got, her ratings were down, and then be like, okay, I'm going to tap out. She checked out on top. Another thing she never did is that, I don't know if you guys know this, but Martha Stewart took her name public. I know you guys have probably, Martha Stewart towels and all these things. I think they were in Kmart. But Oprah Winfrey never took her name public. She kept it private. And another thing that I really applaud Oprah for and have sort of mirrored myself seriously is that she never pursued business deals outside of her core competence. Like, Oprah sticks to what she knows, and you just don't see her out there doing just any and everything. And so people are going to come to you and have all these suggestions for you, but you have to first ask yourself, remember your tagline, is this aligned with who I say I am? Because you have to be very obsessive about protecting your brand. And once you become successful, it really comes down to what you say no to. So I think I read that Chipotle, once they got purchased, I believe by McDonald's. I think McDonald's had purchased them. I think I'm 99.99% sure that's it. And that there was this conversation about, them doing coffee or cookies, because McDonald's has their thing, and they said no. And they were like, we make, they make burritos, they make bowls, they're like, we're going to do what we do best. And I think that you have to remember that as you see people podcasting, YouTubing, Instagramming, whatever the next crazy thing is going to be. If that's not your lane, you don't have to do everything. Even if people are winning at that, you still don't have to do it. So I started podcasting in 2011 because videos are not my ministry. I tried to make one video and I was just like, how do these girls do this? You have to be into this. Like, first you got to set the camera up, you got to focus it, you got to get your light right, you got to record it. So you have to record it, then you have to take it from the camera, put it on a computer, right? Then you got to cut it up and edit it and all that, and you got to upload it. And I was just like, for the way that I move, I would be, this is not for me. But what I could do was flip my laptop open and start talking. And I just found that just worked for me. And so I'm only going to do what I do best. And so a lot of times people will say, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? You know why? Because it's like, I'm not the best at that. I always appreciate the suggestions, but nobody knows better than me what I'm good at. And so you have to remember that for yourself too, is do what you do best. Even if you're okay at something, just let it go. Stick to what you do the best, because then everybody will think you're the best at everything, even though you're not. You see what I'm saying? So that is the thing. And then they say, if you try to tap into something that's already happening, you're likely to get caught chasing the trend like everyone else. And you want to be a person that anticipates things versus a person who's always reacting to things. And so whenever I see that, I'm just like, oh my God, another Me Too. And everybody, even though you think that people don't know that you're a Me Tooer, they notice it. And this doesn't mean, also keep in mind that there is nothing new under the sun, right? So it's like, please don't do nothing because you feel like I can't come up with anything original. It's just like, be original in the way that you do it. And if you find that you are good at it and you are your best at it, then go ahead and do it, And so you want to just make sure that you are constantly scanning the horizon, looking out, seeing what's happening, doing a lot of research, and moving in unexpected directions. And so you have to move in directions that people may not expect from you. And you have to be looking in the distance. And so constantly going out. I consume a lot of content. I tell people that all the time. I read the things that I like, and then I also read things that don't necessarily interest me, because I'm constantly wanting to push myself outside of only doing what I know. A lot of people get caught up in that, is that they only do what they know. They only hang out with people they know. They only go to places they know. They only order things on the menu that they know. And so I'm constantly pushing myself outside of that, because I do believe that's where the magic is. So something else you want to think about, like, what is the goal? What is the goal of all this branding business? And the goal is to understand the role of your brand in people's lives and in the broader culture. Like, what is it? How do people perceive you? What do you mean to them? And then think about how likely, your role in their life will change, and then change with it. So, and I'm just telling you guys what I've been doing and how I've been doing things, is that's what moved me into Curlbox Body, is that I was just thinking about the role that we played in our customers' lives. And we've had people who've been with us from the very beginning. We have lots of people who have been with us 1 year, 2 years. And I get all these products, and I started to think, I have a lot of hair stuff. I'm also body obsessed. And what else? How is our customer going to move, and how can we continue to provide things? Because even as when we lose customers, I understand that a lot of it is, okay, maybe I didn't like it, but another part of it is that I found what I love. And that is what we are in the business of, is helping people find what they love. And so how can I help you find more things you love? Another thing is that you want to know that you can't be all things to all people, right? If you try to be all things to all people, you'll never connect deeply with anyone. And so, in the very beginning, there was a time where we get complaints, this is not for me. I've been natural, or I've been doing my hair for 20 years, and I can't believe you would give me this. And I then say, then this isn't for you, perhaps. This is for people who are looking for, searching and seeking out new products versus just like, wanting discounted things. This is for someone who really needs help. We have a lot of college customers, a lot of young women who are in smaller parts of town who don't have access to products. And so I understand that I can't be all things to all people, even though I want to be. And so I think we connect with the people who need us. I think that there are a lot of people who really need the service. And so while we hate to see anyone go, we are also okay being like, we understand that this is not for you. Because great brands don't chase customers. You know what I mean? It's just like, I talked about this a couple podcasts ago about how focus on who's focused on you, So there's this thing of how you are going to work with your customers and train your customers. And so if you have a huge demand for what people love, you want to be very careful about offering discounts. And so that is something that I had a very close friend to me who does offer discounts, but he said something to me of like, discounts when at the core of it is like lazy marketing. He's like, it's your quick way of getting people to be interested in you, versus working really hard and figuring out ways to get people to want to buy what you have at full price. And I remember being like, dang, but this was super early in my career, but it never left me. And so it's like, you have to train customers and clients to get it before it's gone, versus feeling like you have to water it down for them, right? It's like when you don't hold sales, you keep the bargain hunter sort of away from you, because customers are trained to look for the deal at all times. And so you want to be sure that you are attracting people who aren't even looking for you. And that typically comes by the sharing and the word of mouth, because I will go out and I'll meet people and they'll be like, oh my God, I love your podcast. My cousin told me, my friend told me, by creating stellar content. And the way that you do that is by celebrating who you are. So I posted this on my Twitter last night. When you embrace and celebrate who you are, you attract the people who are destined to be your most loyal customers. And so this is something that's super huge and super important. So sweat the small stuff. Think about your design. Really zero in on your packaging. If you have a product, like, it is really important. It is the magic. It is what people see. And take your time and get it right. A lot of times I see falling off labels, multiple use of fonts. Your package is your first impression. It's what people will think about you. And you want to be purposeful sort of in everything you do. You want everything to communicate exclusive. So, if my things are exclusive, effortless, I want to have this feel of exclusivity. I want to have this feel that, I'm trying to, in everything I do, create the magic, like the femininity, the pink tissue paper, like all of that stuff has to tell the story. So my final thing, and I apologize if that was a little bit, how I get when I'm all like, I want to tell you this, I want to tell you that, I want to tell you this, is that you want to remember that great brands give back. So you should always give back. You can give back by sharing information, give back by helping others, but definitely make sure that you do that. And so I hope that you guys really enjoyed this branding podcast, and I hope that this helped you in the creation of the beginning of your boss brand. If you have any questions, you can always reach me at mytachi.com. There's a tab that says Ask Me Anything. Please do ask me anything. And you can email me. I'm mytachi@gmail.com. Talk to you guys soon. Bye.